Hello, I'm Justin Wright from Habitus Incorporated. We are a B Corp that teaches negotiation and helps people run effective meetings. And I wanted to share with you some best practices on running virtual meetings because that is a need right now. And we want to help organizations running virtual meetings run them better. So what goes wrong in virtual meetings? First, the tech can fail you. Second, people don't participate or they talk over each other. You end up third in a context that can be kind of distant and dehumanizing, where you don't feel connected as people. Fourth, virtual meetings are exhausting. They take up a lot of your life force and energy, and after back-to-back meeting, you get tired. Fifth, they are very low accountability, and often people are doing other things while you're trying to have a meeting with them. And finally, they're slow. They just take more time than in-person meetings do to get the same thing done. So what do? How do you resolve these challenges that you face in virtual meetings? Well, first, before thinking about virtual meetings, you just have to think about normal meetings. Virtual meetings are meetings. And so if you're not running good meetings, making them virtual compounds an existing problem that you have to solve first. So if your meeting doesn't have an agenda, if it doesn't have a clear articulation of purpose and product, if you haven't thought about who's facilitating and taking notes, if you're not holding time at the end to talk next actions and decisions, your meeting's not going to work virtual or otherwise. So you have to make sure you're running good meetings. Once the meeting becomes virtual, there's a set of things you can do to make it work better. The first is manage tech early. So make sure that you're thinking through the technical components before you get on the call, not once you get on the call or conference line. The second is engage people directly. People don't speak because they're not sure when and how to speak without interruption. So you want to give them clear instructions on how to jump in, when to jump in, how to speak, and create opportunities to directly invite people in. Third, building human connection. You need to create space for people to connect as people at the top of your calls. And so this can be an informal check-in, or it can actually be a check-in question where you say, I'd like to hear about a book that's really impacted your thinking, and give each person a chance to share. You need to create screen-free time. Never have a virtual meeting, especially a video call, that lasts more than 75 minutes without adding a break. If you're going to go over 75 minutes, you have to give people a break or they will burn out, right? Which connects to the question around people getting distracted. And so one way of managing distraction is make sure you don't have meetings that are so long that people burn out. But another is to actually bake accountability into your structure. So email people in advance and say, for this call, I'd like to ask that you join by video and that you be fully focused, right? You've set an expectation now up front. Give people meaningful work to do during the call so that they're needed, right? On virtual meetings, you have to really be careful to not invite people who aren't needed, because that's a recipe for people being highly distracted. And in general, the more you can create accountability to participate, which I'll talk about in a minute, coming back to this question of engaging directly, the easier it is to hold people accountable. Finally, do less. Your meetings are going to take longer, so you need to be less ambitious about what you're going to achieve in a virtual meeting. And you'll feel better, it will be a better result, you'll get clear outcomes if you take things and scale them back about 75% in terms of what you seek to accomplish in a meeting as compared to what you might do in person. Let's come back to this question of engaging people directly. When you're engaging people directly, that you need to let them know how to participate in the conversation. So you say to them at the beginning of the call, maybe you send this out in your pre-email with the agenda and the call-in information. If you have a question, I want you to interrupt me by just unmuting and talking. Or maybe I don't want that. Maybe I'd prefer that you raise your hand and I have everyone up on the screen, I can see you. And so raise your hand and then I'll be able to see you and I'll call on you. Or I might ask that you chat me, right? So in the chat function, you actually send me a chat saying, I have a question. I'll see it. When I'm ready, I'll say, all right, I see that we have a question from Doug. And then you move in, right? So now once people know how to engage, then you want to create opportunities that invite participation. I'll give 3 examples. One example is that you can actually just speak in rounds. You can ask each person to share their perspective on something. So you can say, for example, here's the prototype of the new product that we're putting forward, and I'd just like to hear a quick round from each person. Do you have any questions about what you've seen? And then I want to do a quick round of comments, observations, critiques. All right, so let's start with Tom. Tom, what do you think? Susan, Javier, right? And you just go around and hear from everyone. Another option is that you can ask people to break out into small groups, especially if you have a large meeting. You can break people. Most conferencing softwares have a way to do breakout groups, and you can break out into groups of 2 or 3 and give people discrete and meaningful work to do in those small groups, and then have them come back and share what they came up with in the larger groups. Another option is that you can actually give people a chance to work on their own. So you might say, here's the project proposal that we've put forward. I've attached a link. Please make sure everyone you have access. Thumbs up you have access. Yes, yes. Okay, everyone has access. Great. What I'm going to ask you to do is just take 2 minutes and read it, and then write down one thing you really like about it, one question you have about it, and then turn your camera off. And when you're done, turn your camera back on so I'll know everyone's done and we can proceed. Right? It's another way to invite people to participate directly so they know how to engage. And finally, don't be afraid to call people out directly, to say, Teresa, I'd really like to hear your perspective on this because whatever. Obviously, you always want to let people pass, but especially the quieter voices may need to be invited in. And again, it's an invitation, not a demand. When you're managing virtual meetings, you want to make sure that you think about these 6 principles and that you are doing your good meeting fundamentals as well. I hope that this has been helpful and that your meetings virtually and in real life are productive and amazing.